Daniel walked into the jewelry store to buy a ring and seal a new life. Minutes later, he stood frozen, listening to his ex-wife beg for work behind the counter. The past didn't knock. It spoke softly and asked for mercy. Before the story continues, take a moment to like this video if you enjoy slow, emotional storytelling. Comment where you're watching from. I read every one. And if these stories speak to you, consider subscribing. Now, let's go back. Daniel Harper learned how quiet a room could be when hope was still alive. The jewelry store smelled of polished glass and old promises. He stood near the counter, jacket folded over his arm, a small velvet box waiting in his pocket like a held breath. He was there to buy an engagement ring for the woman who had taught his son to laugh again. Then he heard a voice he had buried years ago, thin, apologetic, breaking. It came from behind the counter, asking if there was any extra work tonight. The sound froze him where he stood still. He did not turn around at first. People changed, he told himself, voices blurred with memory. But his chest tightened, sharp and familiar, like the nights after court hearings when silence felt heavier than shouting. 3 years earlier, his ex-wife, Lena, had walked out of their marriage with certainty and pride. She had wanted freedom. She had wanted more. Now, Daniel stared at a display of rings, each one shining, while the past pressed close, patient, waiting to be acknowledged. Every breath slowed, and his hands began to shake. He counted seconds to stay upright. No one noticed yet. Behind the counter, Lena stood in a faded store uniform, sleeves too long, hair pulled back without care. Her eyes were down. She was speaking to the manager, a man Daniel did not know, his posture rigid, his patience thin. Lena held out a small envelope. Daniel recognized the gesture immediately. It was the same way she had once asked him for another chance, palms open, voice careful. The manager shook his head. Customers watched, pretending not to see. Heat climbed Daniel's neck, slow and uncontrollable. He felt exposed without being addressed. The line behind him shifted impatiently and sighed. Daniel finally turned. Lena looked up, and recognition landed between them without sound. Her mouth opened, then closed. Shame crossed her face, then something harder, older. She straightened, as if dignity could be recalled by posture alone. Daniel said nothing. He had learned that words often made things worse. Around them, the store continued, soft music, polite murmurs, a polished world that did not pause for private wreckage. The manager cleared his throat, irritated by delay. A woman whispered something cruel near the cases. Lena's hands trembled despite her effort. Daniel felt the floor tilt under memory, briefly, dangerously so. The manager spoke at last, loud enough to be public. He said they did not run a charity. He said payroll was full. He suggested she try somewhere else. The words were calm, professional, and absolute. Lena nodded too quickly. She thanked him for his time. Her voice barely carried. Daniel watched strangers avert their eyes. He had stood in rooms like this before, judged by silence rather than law. It was a punishment without appeal, familiar to him. Divorce had taught him how public failure felt. Lena gathered the envelope like broken glass. Her shoulders sank, still refusing collapse. Daniel remembered the courtroom, the way Lena had smiled when the judge spoke of finality. She had believed she would rise. He had believed he would endure. Their son, Noah, had been small then, gripping Daniel's finger with quiet fear. Daniel had built a smaller life since, early mornings, packed lunches,
evenings reading aloud. Stability had become his only ambition, and it had cost him pride. He rarely spoke of the loss, even privately. People praised his strength without seeing its price. Today, that price stood in front of him, unemployed, humiliated, asking for mercy, in the open, again, publicly. The woman waiting at Daniel's side, Claire, was choosing rings across the room. She trusted him. She believed in careful love. Daniel had not told Claire about Lena being in town. He had not expected this collision. His phone buzzed with a message from the babysitter, a simple update, nothing wrong. Life continued. Daniel's chest ached with divided loyalty, past and present pressing equally. He felt responsible for every fragile balance nearby. Claire smiled at him, unaware of the storm. Lena stepped aside, making space for customers. Her eyes stayed low, avoiding Daniel. The manager resumed his routine, coldly efficient. Daniel realized something then. Buying a ring was supposed to close a chapter. Instead, it had reopened one he never finished reading. Lena's fall was not his victory. It felt like a debt, unsettled and heavy. He thought of Noah asking about his mother last week, the careful question, the practiced indifference. Daniel had answered honestly, but briefly. Now, honesty demanded more than words. He weighed consequences the way he always did. Helping could reopen wounds he had sealed. Ignoring her would poison something inside. The choice carried cost either way. Daniel breathed slowly, grounding himself, before moving at all. He stepped forward, not towards the rings, but towards the counter. The manager looked annoyed. Lena stiffened. Claire noticed and frowned, confused. Daniel placed his folded jacket on the glass, a small, deliberate sound. He asked if there was a problem. The question was simple. The room leaned in, hungry for resolution. The manager explained policies with practiced patience. Lena tried to interrupt, then stopped herself. Daniel listened without reacting, absorbing tone and detail. He noticed how quickly respect shifted when money spoke. Claire watched him with new concern. Daniel met her eyes briefly. A promise passed unspoken there. This moment would change everything. Daniel knew it with the same certainty he once knew his marriage was ending. Whatever he did next would follow him home, into his son's questions, into Claire's trust, into Lena's future. The ring no longer mattered. The box in his pocket felt heavier, transformed. Daniel inhaled, steady and controlled, preparing to speak, aware that dignity sometimes required exposure. The store lights hummed, waiting for his decision. Silence pressed closer, demanding an answer. Daniel's voice would break that balance, and nothing afterward would be simple again. This was only the beginning, for all of them.
Daniel spoke before doubt could stop him. His voice was calm, almost polite. He said he might be able to help. The manager looked at him, measuring clothes, posture, wallet. Lena's head snapped up, eyes wide, then immediately down again, as if hope itself was dangerous. Daniel asked simple questions about shifts, about temporary help, about policy exceptions. The manager answered carefully, sensing money now stood on the other side of the counter. The balance shifted without ceremony. It always did. Claire walked closer, confusion turning into concern. She did not interrupt. Daniel appreciated that. He had chosen her for that quiet intelligence. The manager cleared his throat and said there might be a trial shift, unpaid, to assess reliability. Lena flinched. Daniel did not. He nodded as if this were reasonable. Then he asked how long such trials usually lasted. The manager hesitated. 10 days, maybe more.
Daniel reached into his pocket and placed his card on the glass. Not dramatic, just present. He said he would cover the cost of those shifts as a consultant fee, billed separately. The manager blinked. Customers watched openly now. Silence thickened. The manager agreed. He smiled, tight and professional. He shook Daniel's hand. The transaction was complete. Lena stood very still, humiliation replaced by something worse, dependency. She did not thank Daniel. She could not. He would have stopped her if she tried. Instead, she nodded once, sharp and contained. The manager walked away, satisfied. The store returned to motion. Music resumed its soft loop. Daniel picked up his jacket. His heart pounded, but his face stayed neutral. Years of restraint had taught him how. Claire pulled him aside. Her voice was low, controlled. She asked who Lena was. Daniel told her, briefly, truthfully. Claire listened, eyes narrowing, not in anger, but calculation. She said nothing else. That silence was heavier than accusation. Daniel knew this choice would follow him home. He accepted it. He always accepted consequences. Lena stepped away from the counter, heading to the back room. She did not look at Daniel again. That hurt more than gratitude would have. Distance had hardened her, or maybe it had simply stripped illusion. They left the store without buying anything. The velvet box remained in Daniel's pocket, suddenly absurd. Outside, the air felt colder. Claire walked beside him in measured steps. After a block, she stopped. She said she needed time, not space, time. Daniel nodded. He did not argue. He knew when to let silence work. Claire kissed his cheek, gentle but uncertain, and walked toward her car. Daniel watched her go, feeling the weight of what he had unsettled. He had not chosen Lena over Claire. He had chosen responsibility over comfort. The difference mattered, even if it hurt. At home, Noah was building something on the living room floor. Daniel watched him for a long moment before speaking. He did not mention the store. He helped with the blocks. Routine anchored him. Later that night, after Noah slept, Daniel sat alone at the kitchen table. He took out the ring box and opened it. The ring caught the light, flawless and distant. He closed it again. He sent Claire a message, simple, honest. He said he was there when she was ready. Then he turned off the light and sat in the dark. Days passed. Lena worked the trial shifts. Daniel did not visit the store again. He transferred payment weekly, quietly. The manager grew respectful. Lena kept her head down. Word traveled among staff. Some resented her. Some pitied her. None understood. She took every shift offered. She said little. At night, she rode the bus home, counting stops. Her apartment was small. The walls were bare. She ate cheap food and slept lightly. Pride had been replaced by endurance. It was not redemption. It was survival. Daniel and Claire spoke sparingly, carefully. She admitted she felt threatened by the past. He understood. He did not defend himself. He did not promise easy resolution. He told her the truth, that helping Lena was not about love. It was about not letting his son see cruelty win. Claire listened. She said she needed to see where this led. Daniel agreed. He did not push. Pressure destroyed fragile things. He had learned that once, painfully. One afternoon, Daniel received a call from the school. Noah had asked to see the counselor. Daniel left work early. Noah sat small in the chair, eyes down. He said kids had talked about his mom. He said someone's parent worked at the jewelry store. He said they laughed. Daniel felt anger rise, sharp and sudden. He swallowed it. He told Noah people talked when they did not understand. He told him his mother was trying. That mattered. Noah nodded. Relief flickered. That was enough for now. That evening, Lena showed up at Daniel's door, unexpected, unannounced. She held herself stiffly like a visitor in someone else's life. Daniel stepped aside without a word. They stood in the kitchen, the same space where they had once planned holidays. Lena spoke first. She said she did not want his money. She said she would quit. Daniel listened. He did not interrupt. When she finished, he said she was not doing this for him. She was doing it for Noah. That stopped her. Her eyes filled, then hardened. She asked if he planned to tell Noah everything. Daniel said no. Children deserved truth without burden. Lena nodded slowly. Agreement, finally. She stayed for 10 minutes, no more. When she left, Daniel felt something shift. Not forgiveness, understanding. The past was still broken, but the present had rules now, boundaries, purpose. The ring box remained unopened. Claire called that night. She said she had thought about Noah. She said she admired what Daniel had done, even if it scared her. They did not resolve anything, but they stayed connected. That mattered. At the store, Lena completed her trial. The manager offered part-time hours, low pay, no benefits. She accepted without comment. One coworker smirked. Another helped her learn inventory. Small alliances formed, quietly. Daniel continued payments until Lena's first paycheck cleared. Then he stopped. No announcement, no warning. Lena noticed when the deposit didn't come. Fear surged. She checked again. Then she checked her balance. Relief followed. She had earned it. Barely, but enough. Life did not improve suddenly. It tightened slowly into something stable. Daniel watched from a distance. He did not intervene again. Claire returned cautiously. They spoke openly now, about fear, about boundaries. The ring stayed in the drawer. Time would decide its fate. Daniel accepted that too. The story was not finished. Not yet. Consequences were still unfolding. The past had not finished asking questions. And soon, the cost of that first choice would come due, from a place Daniel did not expect.
The call came on a Tuesday afternoon, the kind of day that carried no warning. Daniel was at work, halfway through a report when his phone vibrated. Unknown number. He almost ignored it. Something made him answer. The voice on the other end was clipped, professional, and impatient. It belonged to a woman from the state licensing board. She asked if he was Daniel Harper. Then she asked if he was the former spouse of Lena Harper. Daniel said yes. Silence followed, just long enough to tighten his chest. Then she explained that an investigation had been opened regarding unreported income and possible fraud linked to Lena's previous employment. Daniel listened without interrupting. He had learned how dangerous interruptions could be. The woman said Daniel's name had come up during a review of financial records from 3 years earlier, shared accounts, joint filings, old addresses. Daniel felt the past surface again, heavier now. He asked if he was in trouble. The woman said that depended on cooperation. She requested a meeting, in person, soon. Daniel agreed. When the call ended, the office felt too quiet. He stared at the screen, letters blurring. Helping Lena had been about dignity, about fairness. He had not considered this. Consequences rarely arrived in expected forms. That evening, Daniel did not mention the call to anyone, not to Claire, not to Noah. He cooked dinner, helped with homework, followed routine like a shield. But sleep did not come easily. Old memories stirred. Lena's ambition, the risks she had taken without telling him, the arguments that had ended in silence. He wondered what else he had not known. In the dark, responsibility pressed in from all sides. He reminded himself that panic never helped. He would face it the way he faced everything, calmly, fully awake. The meeting took place in a bland office downtown. Fluorescent lights, cheap chairs. The woman from the phone call sat across from him with a folder. She explained that Lena had worked under the table at a private retailer years ago, earning cash while still married. The income had not been reported. The investigation was routine, she said, but Daniel's name was attached to the filings from that period. Joint responsibility. Daniel felt the familiar injustice rise. He had trusted Lena then. Trust had cost him before. He asked what they needed. The woman said records, emails, any proof that he had not known. Daniel said he would cooperate. He meant it. When he left the building, the sky was low and gray. Daniel sat in his car for a long time before starting the engine. This was the cost. Not money, exposure. He had stepped back into Lena's orbit, and the past had reached out, indifferent to intention. That night, he told Claire. He did not soften it. He did not dramatize it. Claire listened, jaw tight. She asked if it could affect Noah. Daniel said he did not know yet. That uncertainty landed hard. Claire said she supported him, but fear flickered there. Daniel understood. Loving him now meant inheriting old damage. Not everyone signed up for that. Lena found out 2 days later. She showed up again, this time shaking. The board had contacted her too. She admitted everything. She said she had been desperate back then, that she thought she would fix it later. Later never came. Daniel listened. He did not absolve her. He did not accuse her. He asked one question: why now? Lena said because the old employer had been audited. Names surfaced. She had hoped it would stay buried. Daniel nodded. Hope had misled them both before. The tension changed Lena. At work, she grew quieter, more careful. Co-workers noticed. The manager watched her closely, suddenly wary. Rumors began to circulate. She felt the ground shift under her feet again. One evening, she called Daniel and said she might lose the job. Daniel said he would not intervene. This time, she had to stand alone. There was no anger in his voice, just fact. Lena accepted it. Something in her finally understood boundaries. Weeks passed in paperwork and waiting. Daniel dug through old files, bank statements, emails. He found proof that he had questioned unexplained withdrawals, that Lena had reassured him, that he had trusted her. The board reviewed everything. The process was slow, impersonal. Claire stayed, though distance grew. She was honest about her fear. Daniel did not resent it. Fear was reasonable. He told her he would understand if she chose differently. She said she had not decided yet. That honesty was painful, but real. At school, Noah asked why his parents looked tired all the time. Daniel smiled and said adults sometimes carried heavy things. Noah accepted that. Children often did. Daniel protected him from details, but not from truth. That balance mattered. One afternoon, Noah said he wanted to see his mother. It had been months. Daniel paused, then agreed. Avoidance was not protection forever. The visit was awkward. Lena tried too hard at first, then settled into something gentler. She listened more. She apologized once, quietly, without expectation. Noah accepted it without ceremony. Children rarely demanded perfection, just presence. Daniel watched from the kitchen doorway, hands in pockets, heart tight. This was not healing yet, but it was movement. That counted. The board's decision arrived by mail. Daniel opened it alone. He was cleared of wrongdoing. No penalties, No further action. Relief came slow, like warmth after cold. Lena's outcome was harsher. A fine, back taxes, a payment plan that would stretch years. No jail, just consequence. She took it without protest. For the first time, she did not try to escape the weight. Daniel respected that. Quietly. But the store did not wait. The manager let Lena go. Officially, it was about restructuring. Unofficially, risk had become inconvenient. Lena packed her locker without seeing. One coworker hugged her. Another looked away. Public endings were always smaller than they felt. Lena called Daniel afterward. She did not ask for help, just told him. Daniel listened. He said he was sorry. Not for the outcome, for the pain. She thanked him. That was all. Claire came over that night. She had heard about the board. She said she was proud of how he handled it. She also said she was tired of living on the edge of someone else's past. Her voice broke once, then steadied. Daniel felt the loss forming before it was spoken. She said she loved him, but she needed a life with fewer shadows. Daniel nodded. He did not argue. He did not beg. He had learned what love could not survive. They held each other for a long time. Then she left. Daniel sat alone afterward, the house quiet. The ring box still in the drawer. He realized something then. Helping Lena was not about fixing her life. It had been about refusing to be smaller than his values. The cost was real. He had paid it. Slowly. Deliberately. The question now is what remained. Outside, night settled without ceremony. Tomorrow would come. With it, choices. The story had not ended yet, but the shape of its truth was finally clear.
After Claire left, the house felt different. Not empty, just quieter in a way that carried memory. Daniel moved through rooms slowly, noticing what remained. A mug in the sink, Noah's backpack by the door. Life continued, indifferent to turning points. Daniel went to work, cooked dinners, showed up. Routine was not avoidance, it was survival. But something inside him had shifted. The past was no longer chasing him. It was standing still, asking to be understood. Lena drifted for a while after losing the job. She took temporary work where she could, cleaning offices at night, stocking shelves before dawn, jobs without faces or futures. She did not complain. She paid her fines in small, careful installments. She saw Noah twice a month, always on time, always prepared. Daniel noticed the change. Responsibility had settled into her bones. It was not dramatic, it was steady. That mattered. One afternoon, Daniel received an email from the jewelry store, a generic message about a customer satisfaction survey. He almost deleted it. Then he paused. The memory of that first day returned sharply. The humiliation, the power shift. He clicked the link. The questions were bland, but the final comment box was open. Daniel typed slowly. He described what he had seen, not angrily, precisely. The unpaid trial, the public refusal, the way money changed tone. He did not name Lena. He did not threaten. He just described reality. Then he sent it and closed the laptop. Some things needed to be said, even if nothing came of them. Weeks later, the jewelry store manager called him, apologetic, nervous. He said corporate had reviewed practices, that unpaid trials were no longer allowed, that staff training was being updated. He thanked Daniel for his feedback. Daniel listened. He did not feel satisfaction, just a quiet sense of alignment. Consequences, when fair, did not need applause. Noah adjusted to the changes better than Daniel expected. Children often did. He asked fewer questions. He focused on school, friends, small joys. One night, Daniel asked if it was okay that his parents were not together and not angry. He smiled. He said that was more than okay. It was something to be proud of. Noah considered that, then nodded. Acceptance came easily when adults stopped lying. Lena found more stable work through a community center, administrative support, modest pay, predictable hours. She did not tell Daniel right away. He found out through Noah, who mentioned it casually. Daniel felt relief, followed by something like respect. She had done this without leaning on him. That mattered. When Lena eventually told him herself, he congratulated her, simply. She thanked him and ended the call. No lingering, no need. Time softened edges. Daniel and Lena spoke only when necessary. They coordinated schedules, school events, medical forms. The bitterness that had once defined their exchanges was gone, replaced by something quieter, not friendship, understanding. They had both failed each other in different ways. They had both survived. That shared ground was enough. One evening, Daniel attended Noah's school performance. Parents filled the auditorium, cameras ready. Lena sat 2 rows ahead. She turned and nodded when she saw him. Daniel nodded back, nothing more. When Noah walked on stage, nervous but determined, both parents leaned forward, separate, aligned. That balance felt earned. Applause followed. Daniel clapped until his hands hurt. Pride needed no restraint. After the show, a woman approached Daniel, middle-aged, professional. She introduced herself as a counselor from the community center. She said Lena had mentioned him, briefly, respectfully. The woman thanked Daniel for supporting co-parenting without conflict. She said it made a difference. Daniel accepted the thanks without deflection. Recognition, when quiet, felt heavier than praise. That night, Daniel opened the drawer and took out the ring box. He sat at the kitchen table, turning it over in his hands. It represented a future that had almost been, a version of himself that wanted simplicity. He realized he did not regret buying it. He regretted expecting closure to be clean. Life rarely was. He closed the box and placed it back, not as a reminder of loss, as proof of intention. That mattered too. Months passed, seasons changed, Lena stabilized, Noah grew, Daniel adjusted. The loneliness did not vanish, but it softened into something manageable. He filled his time with purpose, volunteering, coaching Noah's team, helping neighbors without needing to be seen. Redemption was not a single act, it was a pattern. One afternoon, Daniel received an email from Claire, unexpected. She said she hoped he was well. She had moved, started fresh. She thanked him for teaching her what quiet integrity looked like. Daniel read the message twice. He did not reply immediately. When he did, he wished her peace, nothing more. Some connections were meant to teach, not last. The past no longer dominated Daniel's thoughts. It informed them. He had learned that dignity did not come from winning. It came from choosing not to look away. Helping Lena had cost him comfort, security, love. It had also given him clarity. He could live with himself. That was not nothing. One evening, Lena asked if Daniel would join her and Noah for dinner. Public place, clear boundaries. Daniel agreed. They ate quietly, talking about school, work, nothing heavy. At one point, Lena looked at Daniel and said she was sorry, not just for the past, for the way she had treated his steadiness as weakness. Daniel accepted the apology without ceremony. He said they were different people now. That was enough. As they left the restaurant, Noah walked between them, holding both hands, briefly, naturally. Daniel felt something loosen in his chest. This was not reconciliation, it was resolution, the kind that arrived slowly, without announcement. Later that night, alone again, Daniel sat by the window. The city lights flickered, lives intersected and moved on. He thought about the man he had been in the jewelry store, frozen, torn. He had stepped forward anyway. That choice had shaped everything that followed, not perfectly, honestly. The story was nearing its end, not with triumph, with balance. And that, Daniel realized, was enough.
The first quiet morning of winter arrived without ceremony. Daniel stood at the kitchen window, coffee cooling in his hands, watching frost gather along the glass. Noah was still asleep. The city moved slowly, muffled by cold. Daniel liked mornings like this. They asked nothing of him. They simply existed. For the first time in a long while, he felt the same way. Life had narrowed into something honest. Work, home, parenting, co-parenting. No grand plans, no rescue missions, just presence. Daniel had learned that peace was not the absence of pain, it was the absence of pretense. He no longer tried to prove anything, not to Lena, not to Claire, not even to himself. The ring box stayed in the drawer, untouched. It no longer felt heavy, it felt neutral, a symbol of a choice that had been delayed, not denied. Daniel understood now that love built on unfinished truths collapsed quietly, leaving confusion behind. If he chose again, it would be from stillness, not urgency. Noah adjusted to winter routines, homework by lamplight, early dinners, weekend mornings with pancakes. One night, while they were washing dishes together, Noah asked a question without looking up. He asked if grown-ups could love more than once. Daniel paused. He dried his hands slowly. Then he said yes, but love looked different when you were older. It asked for more honesty. Noah nodded, satisfied. He returned to scrubbing plates. Children often accepted truth more easily than adults. Lena continued working at the community center. She paid her fines on time. She lived smaller than before, but steadier. One evening, Daniel called her to tell her she had finished her payment plan early. She sounded surprised by herself. Daniel congratulated her. There was pride in his voice, quiet and controlled. After they hung up, Lena sat alone for a long time. She did not cry. She simply breathed. For the first time, the weight she carried felt chosen, not imposed. At Noah's next school conference, Daniel and Lena sat side by side. The teacher spoke about progress, effort, kindness, good reports, ordinary successes. Lena smiled softly. Daniel felt relief without celebration. This was what they had been working toward without naming it. Stability, not perfection, just ground that did not shift underfoot. After the meeting, they walked to the parking lot together. Lena stopped near her car. She thanked Daniel, not for money, not for intervention, for consistency. Daniel accepted it with a nod. He said she had done the work. She agreed. That mutual acknowledgement mattered. It closed something that had been open too long. That winter, Daniel volunteered more hours at the community center, not because of Lena, because it fit. He helped with budgeting workshops, quiet rooms, practical help. People came with problems and left with plans. No speeches, no praise. Daniel preferred it that way. He recognized pieces of himself in the faces that passed through, the tired hope, the guarded dignity. He never told his story.
He did not need to. One evening, after a late shift, Daniel returned home to an empty house. Noah was sleeping at Lena's. The silence felt different now. Not hollow, just still. Daniel sat at the table and opened the drawer. He took out the ring box and placed it in front of him. He opened it and looked at the ring one last time. Then he closed the box and placed it in a donation envelope. Not impulsively, calmly. Letting go did not require anger, only clarity. Weeks later, spring began to show itself in small ways. Longer light, softer air. Daniel felt something loosen inside him. Not excitement, readiness. He noticed a woman at the center, a coordinator, thoughtful, reserved. They spoke occasionally, about schedules, about funding gaps. Nothing personal. There was no rush. Daniel did not mistake politeness for promise. He had learned better. If something grew, it would do so slowly, without rescue, without debt. Lena noticed the change in him before he did. One afternoon, while dropping Noah off, she said he seemed lighter. Daniel considered that. He said maybe he had stopped carrying things that were not his anymore. Lena smiled, not sadly, with recognition. They stood there for a moment, comfortable in silence. Then Noah ran ahead, and the moment passed. The jewelry store closed that summer. Daniel heard about it through a local notice. Corporate restructuring, online competition. No drama, just an ending. Daniel felt no satisfaction, only distance. That place had been a turning point, not a destination. Its purpose had already been served. On a warm evening, Daniel and Noah walked home from the park. The sky was soft with color. Noah talked about school, about friends, about nothing important. Daniel listened. At the door, Noah stopped and looked up. He said he liked their life. Simple, honest. Daniel rested a hand on his son's shoulder. He said he did too. Later, alone again, Daniel reflected on everything that had unfolded since the day he walked into the jewelry store. He had gone there to mark a future. Instead, he had faced a past he did not fully understand. Helping Lena had not redeemed her. It had revealed them both, their flaws, their limits, their capacity to endure without destroying each other. There had been no grand victory, no public apology, no reunion, but there had been dignity, accountability, quiet justice. The kind that did not announce itself, the kind that lasted. Daniel understood now why everything happened the way it did. Not because fate demanded it, but because character revealed itself under pressure. He had chosen to act when silence would have been easier. He had accepted loss without bitterness. He had protected his son without erasing truth. Those choices shaped the outcome more than luck ever could. As night settled, Daniel turned off the lights and stood by the window one last time. The city moved on. So did he. Not unscarred, not triumphant, but whole in a way he had not been before. Some stories ended with fireworks. This one ended with something better. Peace that did not need permission. Thank you for staying with this story until the end. If it resonated with you, there are more quiet, human stories waiting for you here.